If you want to know how a stubborn woman brought Seoul's most dangerous mafia don to his knees, and why they can't decide if they want to kill each other or fuck each other senseless, hit that subscribe button now. Because this story is about to get very filthy. Now, let's rewind 3 months before this day. The limousine smelled like leather and danger as Zara sat across from her father, watching Atlanta disappear through tinted windows. She'd been given exactly 12 hours' notice. Pack your things. You're getting married. The family needs this. He's powerful, her father has said, not meeting her eyes. The Romano family controls most of East Asia's underground. This alliance will save us. You mean selling me will save you? Not like you mean selling me save you. She held up a manicured hand, her voice deadly calm. Let's call this what it is. You fucked up, got in debt with the wrong people, and now you're trading your daughter like cattle. The wedding happened 2 days later in Seoul. No time to run. No time to plan an escape. 500 guests she didn't know watched her walk down an aisle in a dress she hadn't chosen toward a man she'd never met. Darius Romano looked like God's apology for creating the devil. He was a devastating beauty wrapped in a perfectly tailored suit with eyes that had seen too much death and hands that had caused most of it. He didn't smile when she reached him, didn't take her hand, just looked at her with those cold, dark eyes like he was calculating her worth. The kiss was perfunctory. His lips barely brushed hers before pulling away. At the reception, while everyone danced and pretended this wasn't a business transaction, he leaned close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive that made her stomach flip traitorously. Let me be clear about our arrangement, Mrs. Romano, he said in perfect English, his accent barely noticeable. You'll live in my home. You'll attend events as required. You'll play the part of my wife in public. In private, you stay out of my way. I won't touch you. Won't warm my bed. Understood. The dismissal in his voice made her burn. Crystal clear. Though I should warn you, I don't follow orders. Well, something flickered in his expression. You'll follow mine. We'll see about that. The first week, she tested boundaries like a child finding the edges of a new prison. She wandered the penthouse at all hours, rearranged his perfectly organized study, played music too loud while he conducted business calls. Each small rebellion was met with a clenched jaw, a tightened fist, a look that promised consequences he never delivered. But it was the second week when she discovered his weakness. She'd been walking from the shower to her room, the guest room, because God forbid the great Darius share his space. When her towel slipped, not completely, just enough to reveal the curve of her breast, the length of her thigh. She could have fixed it immediately, but she didn't. Darius was coming out of his study, probably to tell her to turn down her music again when he froze. His eyes tracked the water droplets rolling down her dark skin, the way the terry cloth clung to her curves. His hands fisted at his side so hard his knuckles went white. Cover yourself, he ordered, his voice rough. It's my house, too, isn't it? She adjusted the towel slowly, deliberately, watching his jaw clench. Or are you going to give me a dress code now? Zara, what's wrong? Mafia husband. She stepped closer, close enough that he could probably see through the damp fabric. Afraid you might actually want your wife. Then show me. He leaned down until his lips brushed her ear. If I touch you, I won't stop. I'll bend you over the nearest surface and fuck you until you can't walk. I'll mark every inch of your skin so everyone knows you belong to me. I'll ruin you for any other man. Is that what you want? Her breath hitched, heat pooling low in her belly. He gazed at her for some time, and Zara waited with bated breath, her pulse tingling with needs. For a moment, she thought he was going to kiss her, but then he pushed away from the door, hands shaking. Go, he said. Wear whatever you want. Get yourself killed for all I care. Zara had stomped out in frustration, but when she came home that night, laughing on the phone with a friend from Atlanta, he was waiting in the dark like a demon about to eat a stolen soul. Did you have fun? His voice was deceptively calm. Plenty, Zara answered, kicking off her heels, knowing it hiked her dress higher. The ambassador's son is quite charming. Something cracked, a glass in his hand. Blood dripped onto the white carpet. You're bleeding, she gasped, moving toward him instinctively. Stay there. But his voice broke on the words. She ignored him like she always did, and took his hand, examining the cuts. Is this you being jealous, dear Mafia husband? I don't get jealous, he muttered. She looked up at him, pressing a cloth to his palm. You're jealous that another man made me laugh. That another man might have touched me. He whipped his head towards her then, his eyes blazing. Did he? The question was sharp, dangerous. Did he touch you? Would it matter if he did? He backed her against the counter. A bloody hand braced beside her head. Answer me. Zara giggled. No, he didn't touch me. She tilted her head. But you want to, don't you? Want to touch me so badly, it's driving you insane. You don't know what I want. I know you touch yourself thinking about me. The words hung between them like a loaded gun. I know you groan my name in the shower when you fuck your fist. I know you stand outside my door at night like a starving man outside a feast. So why are you starving when I'm ready to feed you? His control shattered then. He kissed her like he was dying, like she was the last breath of air in the world. His hands tangled in her hair, tilting her head to deepen the kiss. And she moaned into his mouth, finally, getting what she'd been chasing. But just as she reached for his belt, he pulled away. No, he panted. Not like this. I'm not in control. The rejection stung. She slapped him hard enough to split his lip. Coward. He caught her wrist, pulling her against him. Careful, wife. I'm trying to be honorable. I don't want you to be honorable. I want you to keep your promise. What promise? The one about fucking me until I can't walk. Like this dark romance so far. Drop a comment telling me if Zara should keep pushing or if Darius should break, because someone's control is about to snap completely. 4 days after that rejection, Zara went nuclear. She brought men home, business associates, artists, anyone who would make Darius's eye twitch. She didn't let them pass the foyer. But he didn't know that. She laughed too loud, danced too close, and made sure he could see everything from his study. Then she stopped wearing underwear. It was a small rebellion, but effective. The silk pants, the sundresses, the thin fabrics. He noticed. Oh, he noticed. His eyes would track her movements, darkening when she bent over, when she stretched, when she sat with her legs crossed. One evening, she was cooking badly because she couldn't cook. But that wasn't the point. She was wearing one of his white shirts and nothing else, humming to herself when she felt him behind her. What are you doing? His voice was strained. Making dinner. You can't cook. I can learn. You're not wearing. He cut himself off, taking a shaky breath. She turned, spatula in hand, the shirt gaping open. Not wearing what? His eyes dropped to where the shirt ended mid-thigh, then snapped back up. This has to stop. What has to stop? He gestured between them. This game you're playing. I'm not playing anything. She turned back to the stove. I'm just living my life. If you have a problem with it. He spun her around, pressing her against the counter. You're trying to seduce me. Is it working? She whispered. You know it is. His hands gripped the counter on either side of her, knuckles white. Every fucking day walking around like you don't know what you do to me. Like you don't know I'm going insane. Then do something about it. I can't. Because I stopped jaw clenching. Because if I start, I'll never stop. I'll become the monster everyone thinks I am. Maybe I want the monster. He laughed dark and bitter. You don't know what you're asking for. For a moment, she thought he would. His hand rose to her throat, his thumb pressing against her pulse. His other hand gripped her hip, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. She could feel him hard against her stomach. Could see the lust in his eyes. Then his phone rang. Business. Always fucking business. He stepped away, answering in rapid Korean, but his eyes never left hers. She could see the promise in them. Soon that night, she heard him stroking himself in his bathroom again, the shower running too long, her name on his lips, the sound of his fist hitting the tile. She pressed her thighs together, her own hand sliding between her legs, matching his rhythm through the wall. They were both losing this game. The breaking point came the next night. She'd gone to a gallery opening despite his explicit orders to stay home. There had been threats, he said. Danger, he said. She'd gone anyway, wearing the red dress that made him crazy, the one with the low back and high slit. When she came home, the penthouse was dark. She turned to find him stepping out of the shadows. And for the first time since their marriage, she felt afraid, not of violence, of the promise in his eyes. I told you not to go. You're not my father. I'm your husband. Same difference. He moved faster than she could track, backing her against the wall. Do you know what could have happened to you tonight? But it didn't. That was when she noticed the gun in his hand. He brandished it in her face. Do you know how many people I had to kill tonight to keep you safe? Why are you so fucking stubborn? I should lock you up in this penthouse. She slapped him then hard. Enough to give him a split lip. The gun pressed against Zara's spine as Darius's body pinned her against the wall, his breath hot against her neck. Blood from his split lip dripped onto her bare shoulder. Yes, she had done that. She had slapped him hard enough to draw blood when he tried to lock her in the penthouse again. You never fucking listen. Darius growled, his free hand tangling in her hair, pulling her head back to expose her throat. I told you not to leave. I told you it wasn't safe. And I told you, she hissed, grinding back against him just to feel him harden, just to prove her point, that I'm not your prisoner. The gun traced down her spine, cold metal against burning skin. You're my wife. Same thing, isn't it? He spun her around, slamming her back against the wall. The gun now pressed under her chin. His eyes were black with rage and something else. Something that made her thighs clench. 3 months of marriage. 3 months of this violent dance where they circled each other like wounded predators, wanting to destroy each other, wanting to devour each other. I should kill you, he whispered, his thumb brushing over her bottom lip. You're going to get yourself killed anyway with your stubbornness. Then do it. She opened her mouth and took his thumb in, sucking it. She watched his control fracture as she did. Or fuck me. But make a choice, dear Mafia husband, because I'm tired of this game. The gun clattered to the floor. Then Darius's mouth crashed into hers, all teeth and rage and desperate hunger. She bit his already split lip harder, tasting blood. And he groaned into her mouth like she was killing him. I hate you, she gasped as he hiked her dress up. I hate you more, he growled, lifting her against the wall. But their bodies had never gotten the memo about the hatred. Then do it. She opened her mouth and took his thumb in, sucking it. But make a choice, dear Mafia husband. Because I'm tired of this game. Why not? Because I had men following you. Because I've had men following you every day since our wedding. His hand slammed beside her head. Do you know what it cost me to keep them from reporting back every time you let another man touch you? Every time you smiled at someone who wasn't me? Why do you care? Why do I? He laughed, the sound unhinged. Are you really that blind? You said you didn't want me. I lied. The admission came out ragged. Okay, I lied. I've wanted you since the moment you walked down that aisle looking like every sin I've ever wanted to commit. I've wanted you every morning when you do your fucking yoga in those tiny shorts. I've wanted you every night when I hear you touching yourself through the wall, moaning my name like you don't know I can hear you. Her breath caught. You could hear everything. His mouth was at her ear now. Every whimper, every gasp, every time you came thinking about me, just like you can hear me. Then why? Because I'm trying to protect you. The words exploded out of him. From this life, from my enemies, from me, because if I claim you, really claim you, there's no going back. You become a target. You become mine forever. And I'm selfish enough that once I have you, I'll never let you go. What if I don't want to be let go? He pulled back to look at her, something vulnerable flickering in his eyes. Couldn't wait for him to make up his mind anymore. She went on her tiptoes and kissed him. He returned it without hesitation, their tongues tangling together. When they broke apart, she whispered against his lips, I'm already a target. I'm already yours. The only question is whether you're brave enough to be mine. In reply, he carried her to his bedroom, laying her on black silk sheets like an offering. His hands shook as he undressed her, revealing her piece by piece, his mouth following the path of his fingers. I'm going to ruin you so bad, he warned, his teeth grazing her inner thigh. Promise. What happened next was 3 months of tension exploding into desperate need. He took her apart with his mouth, his fingers, making her come twice before finally pressing inside her. The stretch, the fullness, the way he groaned her name. It was everything and not enough. More, she gasped, her nails raking down his back. Be polite, wifey. Darius rasped as he kissed her down to her chest. Beg for it. More, please. Zara gasped and bit her lower lip. You're so greedy, he growled, but gave her what she wanted, fucking her harder, deeper, until she was screaming his name. They didn't leave the bed for hours. Every position, every surface, every filthy promise he'd made became reality. When dawn broke through the windows, she was covered in bruises and bite marks, her body aching in the most delicious ways. I love you, she gasped as she shattered around him. The word surprised them both. He stilled, pulling back to look at her. Say it again. I love you, Darius. My monster, my enemy, my husband. I love you, too, he said as dawn broke again. More than my empire, more than my life, more than my soul. Prove it. His smile was wicked. Every day for the rest of our lives. Any regrets? Darius asked as they stood on the balcony, souls spread before them. Just one. His body tensed. I should have slapped you harder that first time. Maybe we would have figured this out sooner. His laugh was rich, dark, everything she loved about him. You can slap me anytime you want, wife. Careful. I might take you up on that. I'm counting on it. She turned in his arms, the morning sun painting her skin gold. So what now? He lifted her onto the balcony railing, stepping between her thighs. Now I'm going to fuck my wife on this balcony where all of Seoul can see who you belong to here. Anyone could, that's the point. His hands pushed her dress up. Let them see. Let them know that the stubborn woman who never listens, who drives me insane, who nearly gets herself killed daily. Let them know she's mine. You're insane. You'll ruin me. You made me that way, and you wanted me to ruin you. Wanted me to fuck you until you cannot walk again. Give me permission, he commanded, fingers already finding her. Say yes, Zara. She gasped as he worked on her with his tongue and his fingers. As he claimed her there, high above the city he ruled, Zara thought about the strange journey that had brought them here. An arranged marriage between enemies. 3 months of violent foreplay disguised as hatred and a love born from stubbornness and spite. She'd married the devil himself, thinking it was a prison sentence. Instead, she'd found a man who'd burn the world for her, and she'd burn it right back for him. If you made it to the end, comment stubborn below and tell me, should I continue Zara and Darius's story? Because these two are far from done driving each other crazy. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more dark romances that'll leave you breathless and desperate for more. Until next time, lovers, stay stubborn, stay dangerous, and never ever listen to orders. I love you all so much. 3 weeks later, Zara learned that being the wife of Seoul's most dangerous man meant more than just sharing his bed and wearing his ring. It meant becoming a target painted in crimson and gold, a prize that every rival family wanted to claim or destroy. The first attempt came at a charity gala, all glittering chandeliers and false smiles hiding daggers behind silk evening gowns. Zara was making small talk with the wife of a Russian arms dealer when she felt the needle prick against her neck. Poison, whispered the woman with the kind smile and dead eyes. You have 30 minutes to get to the bathroom and take the antidote I've hidden there, or you die very slowly and very publicly. Tell Darius that the Kozlov family sends their regards. Zara's blood turned to ice, but she kept her expression neutral, her voice steady. 30 minutes, she repeated, as if they were discussing the weather. The woman nodded and melted back into the crowd, leaving Zara alone with the knowledge that something deadly was already coursing through her veins. Her first instinct was to find Darius, to scream for help, to let him save her like he always did. But something darker whispered in her mind, something that had been growing stronger with each passing day in his world. If she ran to him now, she would forever be the weak link, the liability that needed protecting. She would never be his equal. Instead, she excused herself calmly and made her way through the ballroom, her mind working like the strategist she was discovering herself to be. The Kozlov woman had made a critical error assuming Zara was helpless, assuming she didn't know that Vincent Torres was positioned by the main entrance and that Darius always had backup plans within backup plans. She found Vincent by the champagne fountain, his eyes constantly scanning the crowd with the practiced alertness of a man who had survived too many attempts on his employer's life. Vincent, she whispered, stepping close enough that her words wouldn't carry. I need you to follow the brunette in the silver Versace dress. She just poisoned me. Vincent's hand moved toward his weapon, but Zara caught his wrist. Not here. Too public. Follow her outside. I want to know who sent her and where she's staying. You need medical attention, Vincent said, his voice tight with concern. I need information more. Zara's smile was sharp as broken glass. Besides, she thinks I'm going to run to the bathroom like a scared little girl. Let's disappoint her. For the next 25 minutes, Zara played the perfect socialite wife, all while feeling the poison creep through her system like liquid fire. Her vision started to blur at the edges, her hands began to shake, but she kept talking, kept smiling, kept pretending that death wasn't knocking at her door. It was the longest performance of her life, and when Vincent returned with the intel she needed, she had exactly 3 minutes left. The antidote was exactly where the woman had said it would be, hidden behind the mirror in the ladies' bathroom. But as Zara lifted the small vial to her lips, She made a decision that would change everything. She photographed the vial, documented its location, and then drank only half of the contents. She wanted to feel every moment of what it meant to be poisoned, wanted to remember the sensation of her enemies trying to kill her. When Darius found her 20 minutes later, pale and shaking but alive, his rage was a living thing that filled the entire bathroom. "Who?" he demanded, his hands gentle on her face despite the murder in his eyes. "The Kozlov family," she replied, watching as something terrible and beautiful transformed his features. "But Darius, before you burn their world down, you need to hear what Vincent discovered. The woman who poisoned me isn't just working for the Kozlovs. She's working for someone inside your organization. Someone who knew exactly where we would be tonight and exactly how to get close to me." The hunt for the traitor consumed the next week, and Zara discovered that she had a talent for psychological warfare that rivaled her husband's gift for physical violence. While Darius used fear and force to extract information, Zara used something far more insidious. She used trust. She befriended the wives and girlfriends of Darius's men, learned their secrets over afternoon tea and shopping trips, discovered their fears and desires and weaknesses. She became the confidant they had never known they needed, the sister who understood the unique hell of loving a dangerous man. And when she found her target, it was almost too easy. Marcus Chun, one of Darius's oldest lieutenants, had been feeding information to the Kozlovs for months, motivated not by money but by jealousy. He had expected to be Darius's successor before the arranged marriage, before Zara had arrived, and claimed not just Darius's bed, but his attention and his heart. Confronting Marcus required a delicate touch, and Zara knew that Darius would simply put a bullet in the man's head. But bullets were messy, and messiness meant questions, and questions meant weakness in an organization that thrived on absolute loyalty and fear. So Zara arranged a different kind of justice. She invited Marcus to dinner, just the three of them in the penthouse, and served him his favorite meal, while Darius watched with the kind of stillness that preceded violence. "Marcus," she said, cutting into her steak with precise, deliberate strokes, "I've been thinking about loyalty lately, about what it means to betray the people who trust you." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, but Darius remained silent, trusting his wife to handle the situation in whatever way she saw fit. "You know," Marcus continued Zara, her voice conversational, almost friendly, "I discovered something interesting this week. Did you know that the Kozlov family has a very particular way of dealing with assets who are no longer useful to them? They have this charming tradition of sending the asset's family members pieces of the traitor, one body part at a time, until they decide that the message has been received." Marcus went pale, his fork clattering to the plate. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I contacted Mrs. Kozlov yesterday and had a very illuminating conversation about their business practices. I also mentioned that they might want to reconsider their recent investment in a certain lieutenant who has been providing them with information." Marcus tried to stand, but Vincent appeared behind him, strong hands keeping him firmly seated. Mrs. Kozlov was very interested to learn that their informant had been feeding them false information for the past month. Information that I've been carefully crafting to lead them into a trap. "Marcus, you've been working for me for weeks now, and you didn't even know it." The blood drained from Marcus's face as he realized the scope of Zara's manipulation. Every piece of intelligence he had passed to the Kozlovs had been filtered through her, twisted and shaped to serve Darius's interests rather than theirs. She had turned him into a double agent without his knowledge, and now both sides would want him dead. "So here's what's going to happen," Zara continued, her tone still perfectly pleasant. "You're going to disappear. Tonight. Vincent has prepared a new identity for you. A nice little life in rural Montana where you can raise chickens and contemplate the consequences of betraying your family. If you ever surface again, if you ever make contact with anyone from your old life, then the Kozlovs will receive a very detailed dossier about your new location and your new name. And if they don't kill you quickly enough for my liking, then my husband will finish the job." Marcus looked between Zara and Darius, searching for mercy in their faces and finding only cold calculation. "Why?" he whispered. "Why not just kill me?" "Because death is easy, Marcus. Living with the knowledge that you threw away everything for nothing, that you spent the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, that you can never see your family again because your own stupidity made you a liability. That's a special kind of hell that bullets can't provide. After Marcus was escorted away by Vincent, never to be seen again, Darius pulled Zara into his arms and kissed her with a hunger that had nothing to do with physical desire and everything to do with recognition. "You're terrifying," he murmured against her lips. "Absolutely terrifying and perfect and mine." "I learned from the best," she replied, her hands fisting in his shirt. "But I'm not done yet. The Kozlovs still think they can come after what's mine. Time to teach them otherwise." The war that followed lasted 3 months and redefined the criminal landscape of East Asia. But it wasn't fought with guns and explosives like the old wars. This was a war of minds and manipulation, fought in boardrooms and bedrooms, in bank accounts and betrayals. Zara proved to have an intuitive understanding of the human psyche that made her deadlier than any weapon in Darius's arsenal. While he commanded through fear, she controlled through desire. She seduced information from the wives of enemy leaders, not with her body, but with the promise of sisterhood and understanding. She convinced rival organizations that their allies were plotting against them, feeding just enough truth into her lies to make them believable. She turned the Kozlov family's own paranoia against them, making them see traitors in every shadow until they destroyed themselves from within. The end came not with blood and bullets, but with a simple phone call on a Tuesday morning. Mrs. Kozlov, broken and desperate after watching her empire crumble from the inside out, called Zara directly to surrender. "We underestimated you," the older woman said, her voice hollow with defeat. "You're not just Romano's wife. You're his equal." "More than equal," Zara corrected gently. "I'm his partner. And partners don't let anyone threaten their family." The Kozlov family assets were absorbed into Darius's empire within a week, their territory carved up among his allies, their legacy erased as if they had never existed. But for Zara, the real victory wasn't the expansion of power. It was the look in Darius's eyes when he realized that he had married not just a woman, but a queen. 6 months after the Kozlov War ended, Zara stood in the same penthouse where she had first defied her husband, but everything had changed. The guest room where she had once slept was now Darius's study, because she had claimed her rightful place in his bed and in his life. The carefully organized space she had once rearranged out of spite was now organized according to her preferences, because her mind worked differently than his, and he had learned to value her perspective above his own need for control. "You're thinking too loudly," Darius said from behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist as they looked out over the city that was now as much hers as his. "I'm thinking about how far we've come," she replied, leaning back into his warmth. 3 months ago, you were ready to lock me in this penthouse to keep me safe. Now you send me to negotiate with the Yakuza leaders because you know I'm better at reading people than you are? You were always better at reading people," he said, pressing his lips to her neck. "I was just too arrogant to admit it." They had found their rhythm in the months since Marcus's exile and the Kozlov War. Darius still handled the physical aspects of their empire, the enforcement and intimidation that required his particular brand of calculated violence. But Zara had become the spider at the center of the web, the strategic mind that saw patterns and possibilities that even Darius missed. She was the one who identified potential threats before they materialized, who found weaknesses in enemy organizations, who built the alliances that would protect their empire for generations to come. But perhaps most importantly, she had become the balance that Darius needed. Where he saw problems that required elimination, she saw problems that could be transformed into opportunities. Where he inspired fear, she inspired loyalty. Where he commanded through strength, she led through intelligence. Together, they were more formidable than either could have been alone. The arranged marriage that was supposed to be a prison sentence had become a partnership that redefined what power looked like in their world. "Tell me something," Darius said, his voice carrying the same dangerous edge that had once been reserved for enemies. "If you could go back to that day in Atlanta, knowing everything you know now, would you still walk down that aisle?" Zara turned in his arms, studying his face in the golden light of the setting sun. She could see the vulnerability beneath the question, the fear that despite everything they had built together, she might still see their marriage as a cage rather than a choice. "I would run down that aisle," she said, her hands framing his face. "Not because I had to, but because I would know that at the end of it waited the other half of my soul." even if he was disguised as a monster. Especially because he was disguised as a monster. His smile was wicked and tender and purely Darius. So what now, Mrs. Romano? What do we do when we've conquered the world? She stood on her tiptoes and kissed him, tasting power and promise and the future they would build together. Now we make sure no one ever tries to take it from us. And if they do, we remind them why even monsters check under their beds for Zara and Darius Romano. The kiss that followed was a claiming and a promise, a declaration of war against anyone who dared threaten what they had built and a celebration of the empire they would rule together. In the distance, the city sparkled like stars brought to earth, beautiful and dangerous and theirs. And in the penthouse high above it all, the stubborn woman and the monster she had made hers planned the future with the same ruthless precision they brought to everything else. They had found love in the space between hatred and desire, built trust on a foundation of mutual respect and fear, and created a partnership that would reshape their world. The girl who had been sold like cattle had become a queen. The monster who had never learned to love had found his match. And together, they would burn down anyone who tried to tear apart what they had fought so hard to build. If you've made it this far into Zara and Darius's story, drop a comment telling me what you think about their transformation from enemies to partners. Because this is just the beginning of their reign, and there are so many more enemies to conquer, so many more boundaries to cross, so many more ways for them to drive each other absolutely insane with desire and danger. Don't forget to subscribe for more dark romances that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love and power. Until next time, stay dangerous, stay stubborn, and never underestimate what a woman can do when she decides to claim her throne.